My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, their songwriting techniques, and occasionally getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. Welcome to episode 151. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Lisa Mitchell. The Australian singer-songwriter returns after 6 years with her brand new record, A Place to Fall Apart, which is out next week. In today's episode, we're speaking with Lisa about how she prepared for this new record, the sonic shift in her songwriting, and the pros of getting music recommendations from friends. Here we go. Our guest today is a brilliant singer-songwriter based in Melbourne or Naarm. You may know her from Australian Idol all the way back in 2006, or you might know her more from her incredible output of work over the last 17 years, which includes records like Wonder, Bless This Mess, and Warriors. Next week, she returns with a brand new record entitled A Place to Fall Apart. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Lisa Mitchell. Good morning.
Hello. Hi, Simon.
How are you today, Lisa?
I'm good, yeah. I'm pretty excited to be finally talking about my new album. It feels like, because of the pandemic, everything has, been a bit stop and start. So, yeah.
That's very, very fair. It is an exciting time. It has been a little while between records for yourself. I think it was 2016 off the top of my head with the last full-length record.
Yeah, it's wild. That feels like such a long time ago, doesn't it?
It feels like a pre-pandemic, pre-Trump almost kind of world, like a different universe almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess obviously there was that album at the time, Warriors, but it has been 6 years. What has been going on inside the world of Lisa Mitchell within that time?
Well, I think probably one of the most significant things for me that I'm sure was one of those things that didn't really seem significant to anyone else around me. But I made quite a conscious decision to just stop and just live in Melbourne or Naarm. And, because I think when you are, so many people travel for work, and I think it's just a very easy thing to just continue to move around. And I just started feeling I was spending some time in Europe and London again, and in about 2016, something like that, and I think it got to like 2017, and I felt myself really just wanting to stay over there. And then as I went deeper into that possibility, I just felt this very important, deep, intuitive sense of like, no, and I guess like for me, it's probably my values came up. So like my family is really important to me. And even just, even though I was born in the UK and my dad's Scottish, so I do have a kind of a slightly confused and, that I'm very grateful for, a couple of cultures, I guess, in my being. Even though I have that with my dad and growing up until I was about 4 in the UK, I definitely feel most connected to this place, which is Australia. So, I think I felt that was a very significant thing for me, to really decide to just come back here and, just stop and commit to being here, and also to learn more about what it does, what this place is, like what the history of Melbourne and Naarm is. And there's a lot there when you start going back. So that was probably the most significant thing in the last 5 or 6 years was just probably that.
That's very, very fair. I did read somewhere that you, when you came back, you did kind of jump into, I don't want to say like classes or educational kind of purposes, but you did look into the history of the land of Australia, of our First Nations peoples, and kind of, I guess, went and had a look back on, I guess, more of the history that maybe we don't always not acknowledge, but maybe acknowledge is the right word.
Yeah, totally. That's right. Yeah, I did some, at uni there, it's called Indigenous Studies. So, specifically looking at history and politics, that is relevant to the different peoples of so-called Australia. And I think, that was just, stuff that I wish that is just normal in schools. And I'm sure it is more normal these days to just learn the true history of colonisation and what happened and the frontier wars and all of this stuff that just doesn't really get enough airtime. And so then you kind of grow up as a white person living in a colonised land, without enough context really. And I can see why, that there's so much racism and just lack of understanding. So it was really obviously just super needed for me to just understand more of the history and and then I think for me where it took me was a sense of, I realized how impoverished I was, in a cultural sense. Like I realized, wow, like, actually, you can't, like, it's incomparable in terms of the trauma that has happened to First Nations people here. But, there's another type of, impoverishment that has happened to the West, I feel, where we've lost our complexity and we've lost our languages as well. And it's incomparable and it's completely different. But I think it, is also really important because I think what I noticed was, I was coming to, I was working with Green Music Australia, who are mainly a climate action, not-for-profit, aimed at climate action and plastics in the music industry. And we were running a workshop for, centered on First Nations leadership in the music industry. And I was working with a couple of Yoda Yoda artists. And I think what I really felt in that setting was this feeling of like, just like how much they were bringing to the table in terms of like, just like spirituality and ways of being. And I just kind of felt like, damn, like, where's my version of that, and like, and I think this is the difficult thing too, is that so much emotional labor gets put on Indigenous people. And I really felt that as well. And I kind of felt like maybe that's just my dream, is that we all can, as much as we can, go into our own lineages and our own bodies as well, and look for what it is that we can offer as well. And because there is so much, obviously, like in Celtic lineages, there are so many stories that pertain to land and how to treat land and how to treat yourself and other people. And yeah, I think that's something else that I noticed probably in myself, was this hunger of like, oh, I want more teachings. Like, I want more teachings. And I think that was something that I really envied with these First Nations artists and just, writers that I would come across when I was studying. And of course, like, it's, they've been through such trauma and hardship, and they continue, it continues to be incredibly unjust in Australia. So it's a different thing, but I think it's really, I think it's just a whole lot. It's just something that really, I think, was very influential for me. Yeah.
100%. I feel like this new record, not that any of your previous work has ever been immature or whatever it may be, but this record does seem like an evolution for you. It does seem to stand out in terms of difference compared to your past records. The record that we are talking about, sorry, I should mention, A Place to Fall Apart. It is coming out later in April. But yeah, this record, it sounds like not to take a word you used before, but almost like a spiritual awakening or a new kind of, I want to say a new era of Lisa Mitchell.
Thank you. For sure, yeah. Yeah, no, I feel that too.
Did you find with the topics we were just talking about that they influenced, I guess, how you approach your songwriting now, and I guess what you're also talking about or trying to convey in your music?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm kind of at a place now where I am, there's that balance between understanding, a context, for example, what it means to be a white person living, and, that's just one lens, like I'm Scottish and German is the other lens. And then, what it means to be, like something that I think came up a lot for me was, what does it mean to take up space as someone, that is not First Nations, in this country. And, because Black Lives Matter was such a huge, amazing campaign, it had such a resurgence in 2020, I guess it was 2020. I think that was something that a lot of people, were thinking about. We were thinking about identity and, how can you just finding that balance between having, respect for all voices and also being aware of your own internal biases that we have been conditioned with, whether we like it or not. But then also, listening to, for me, how do I listen? How do I discern between my intuition and my conditioning? So that's kind of like also a difficult thing that I've been thinking about a lot. And I feel like now I'm kind of back at a place where I love connecting with my Scottish ancestry. I've been learning Scottish Gaelic, which is my great-grandpa's language, which has been really cool. So I don't know, I think for me, I feel like I'm kind of back at a place of not feeling, I think for a while I really didn't want to speak at all. I just wanted to learn and listen, and I think that was really important for me. And yeah, and now I'm kind of back at a place where, I don't feel so obsessed with not offending people and not getting it right. I feel a little bit more relaxed in terms of, everyone's learning, I'm trying, everyone's trying. Because I think, you can kind of go down, like with anything, you can go down the path of paralysis where you're not, sharing at all because you don't want to get it wrong or you don't want to offend someone. And I think, I can see that also doesn't help anyone either. So, yeah.
That's very fair. I feel that I think kind of touching on what you said right at the start is that the last 2 years, a number of people have used it for like self growth, and kind of being a little bit more introspective of themselves and learning about themselves. I know that the record is called A Place to Fall Apart, and there's also a track in the second half of the record called Supporting Your Unraveling, which I feel also is kind of talking about that unlearning and relearning of things in the mind. I guess when you're approaching something like that and trying to put it into music, trying to put it to chords or melodies or things like that, how do you approach that in wanting to, I know you just said you're not wanting to offend anyone, which is good, and not kind of like have that care, but also I guess wanting to find that perfect line of, giving advice but not being preachy, but also, trying to straddle that line of saying your piece and doing it that way.
Yeah. Well, my approach,
This summer, Instacart presents famous summer flavors coming to your front door. Or pool. Or hotel.
Your grocery delivery has arrived, sir.
That was faster than room service.
No violins in the lobby.
Oh, seriously? Anyway, sit back, relax, and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Starring your favorite snacks, drinks, and more. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Rated H for hungry audiences. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
I think, with that song, it just felt so cathartic. And so the chords and the tempo and the rhythm, like nothing changed from the first time I ever played it. So I really trust that. Like that just always, it just seems like a good sign for me. And so, so that kind of always just was part of the structure. And, and then in terms of the content, there's like the second verse is, there's no word for nature in Noongar language, which I read this article and that just broke me. I was just like, they don't even need a word for nature because they are nature. Like they're why would you need to, and this is just my interpretation of it, but why would you need to describe something that is you? They just don't have a need for a separate, it's not separate from them, so they never need to actually mention it. And I think for me, that just was such a gorgeous, just worldview. And, I suppose it raised, questions of if in the West, if we had a more integrated sense of people and land, if we would feel the consequences of plastic or of fossil fuels more. You know, if the actual way of being, way of thinking, if the language actually was embedded with, that we are the same thing. If we could even bring ourselves to, even make these decisions to frack or to, create plastic, single-use plastics, and but I think, I like in the Nancy Show question, I think, it's probably one of the more political songs on the album. And I think it's very much about, understanding identity and even just thinking about it, considering it at all. And I think it's just, it kind of just is what it is, and it kind of was what I was thinking at that time. And I think I'm not too worried about it. Like I said before, I definitely am just, just sharing some thoughts, and I'm not kind of too worried about people getting offended or but I'm also curious. I'm also kind of just like, what do people think about it? What does it bring up for people? And so it is. I'm curious about that one, about how it will be received.
It is that track, but also the record itself is sonically it's very elegant. I feel it's very beautiful. I feel like for the podcast we do obviously listen to all our guests' music in preparation, and I found myself returning to this record kind of late at night, glass of red wine kind of record. And I guess sonically it seems a bit more sparse as well. It seems a lot more kind of open. And I'm wondering whether that was intentional. I know you worked with Tom from Big Scary on the record. I guess whether that was something you guys discussed or whether it just kind of naturally happened that it was more of an open kind of experience audibly.
Yeah, the record was very much based around my band. So the kind of the core band is Jessie L. Warren, who's a singer-songwriter in her own right, and also plays with Hachiku, and Kishore Ryan, who's the drummer, and he's kind of known for his work in Otto Uto, Kid Sam, and Messesk. And they're both just very strange, beautiful players, and I loved that, and that's really why I chose them. And I just really appreciate both of them and how they think and how they are in life. And so the album was very much just us jamming every Wednesday for basically all of 2018, 2019, maybe at least most of 2018. And so we just kind of got into this rhythm, and our friendship kind of just grew, and we, I suppose, gave each other, I think, the best gift you can give an album, which is the limitation of each other. Like, we only had, that was it. That was the palette. Drums, bass, and, guitar or piano. And so the core of it is really us. And I think that is maybe why it's quite open, because what we did have was, we had the trance of a lot of the rhythms are 3/4, picking patterns, and Kish would match it. So we would really enjoy making these long, and I kind of always would have a feeling of how long I wanted things before I kind of got to them. But Jess and Kish were just monumental in terms of decisions that we made in the arrangements, and changes and, so I think in terms of it feeling open, I would say it's probably literally because it was just the three of us. Yeah. And then, we added, like, later on, I wanted to illustrate the Celtic connection. So I had the Uilleann pipes player who I found in Melbourne and got him into the studio, which are these beautiful Irish pipes. They're kind of like bagpipes, but they're, in my opinion, sound a lot more beautiful and strange and dreamy. Yeah. So, I think maybe that's why it feels more open.
No, that's very cool. It is, as I said, it is a gorgeous sounding record, and I know that I think that there was 2 or 3 maybe single launches last year for Zombie, but you are taking the album out on the road across May, June and July. It seems like all major cities, some rural cities, rural towns as well. How are you feeling about getting back out on the road and being able to play like a proper tour?
Yeah, I'm feeling great about it. I'm very excited. Would just love to not get COVID like in the middle of it. That'd be great. I just feel excited. We're just starting to rehearse again. So I miss them. I miss my band. We kind of created such a world together. So I really miss them. So I'm excited. And, we live close to each other, but you know what it's like. Life is so busy. You just, unless you're actually plugged in doing stuff together, you just don't see each other. So we're just starting to rehearse again, which is really fun. And again, like what I think, this album, most of it was recorded live, because that's kind of where it came from. And I really wanted to showcase the imperfection of the three of us playing live and the magic, that is live music. Anyone can program a drum beat perfectly, but, to play live together is so magical. And it's such a story of our friendship and of the songs. And so, I think this album really shines live. So I'm excited to share it.
It is very exciting. Can, I guess with that new band setup, can people expect reworked or maybe rearranged versions of like older tracks from previous records?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to be, for sure, playing some old favourites as well. And that's right. Because this is a new band, we will definitely get some slightly, new flavours on the old stuff as well.
No, that's very exciting. I know that even in mentioning today that we were going to be having you on the podcast, I know there were quite a few people sharing excitement that Lisa Mitchell was back and with new music. So I think that you'll find a lot of people just excited to see you back on the road and back in the music stratosphere.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, I'm excited too. It'd be lovely just to reconnect. I mean, social media has been pretty amazing to try and stay slightly connected with my audience. But there's nothing like actually having a chat to people after the show and stuff.
100%. We recently spoke to Josh Pike about the pros and cons of both doing like a live stream as an artist, as yourself, and then being able to go and see a gig or be part of a gig, and it's just the worlds apart in the connection.
Oh, totally. It's wild, isn't it? And like, I feel so grateful that we do have these little magical, portals between each other during a pandemic, but then also, it is just absolutely incomparable. I agree. So we can't survive on it. So I'm excited.
Exactly. The sooner we can get back to gigs as per normal, and as you said, not get COVID mid-tour or mid-show, then the better. Fingers crossed. Lisa, we would usually ask our guests what they're currently listening to, if there's any album, record, single, EP, whatever it may be, that's currently kind of taking your fancy at the moment?
I'm a big fan of Rachel Samani. She's an Italian-Scottish folk singer-songwriter. And she's got an EP, her latest EP, I think it was maybe end of last year, called Swallow Me, I think it's called. I've been loving her writing.
That's very cool. Whereabouts do you find your new music, or where do you find what you currently listen to?
Well, that's a good example. Like, I think I had, because Rachel had a huge song called "Lay My Heart" nearly 10 years ago, and I remember. But the reason that I found her recent stuff was that we held an open mic. Amongst our friends, we'll often hold a little open mic night, and so anyone can just get up and read a poem or sing a song or whatever, or do a dance or whatever you want. And it's really fun. If you've ever been to Confest, it's kind of like an open stage where everyone can just get up, and it's not about being good, it's just about sharing. And our friend Patch sang her song "Lay My Heart," and we all sang the kind of harmonies and stuff. And it was such a moment. We were like on the hill at our old property where we used to live, and there was like a fire and it was dark, and there was this lampshade that, like, this big old kind of it was like an old classic lampshade that was just lit up in the darkness right next to Patch, and it was a beautiful song. I think everyone just went home and just put this song on repeat. And so that's kind of how I found music. So sometimes I find music just through my friends playing them. But then also, gotta love Discover Weekly on Spotify. I'm pretty surprised about, how good that algorithm can be. That's my kind of way.
Yeah, it definitely, sometimes algorithms can be fantastic in finding like what they think you like, but sometimes there's nothing like actual people's recommendations or their own likes to kind of hear something and go, yeah, that's cool, or I'm into that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, it's the best feeling, isn't it, when you find out that one of your favourite artists has an album and an EP. It's just like, oh, can't wait to like lose myself. Yeah.
100%.
How about you? How do you?
That's a good question. I think there is something to be said about the algorithm, because there's always some kind of like, if you like this, you might like these. But yeah, record stores or going into places, friends. Also, this job or role, I feel very blessed to have, because like even asking like some of my favorite artists who they listen to allows me to then go cool and then go check out these bands myself. So if anything, it's just a very selfish hobby that I have.
That's cool. Yeah. No, that I can imagine that would, you would get so many recommendations.
It is. I've been very lucky with some of the artists we've been able to be exposed to in that regard. But Lisa, thank you very much for your time today. I do appreciate it, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Simon. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Lisa Mitchell for her time. A Place to Fall Apart is out April 22nd, and we've left links in the show notes if you'd like to pre-order the record or catch her on tour. We also want to give a huge shout out to Nat at the PR Files for helping out with today's interview. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Wednesday and Friday morning, and we now have a Patreon, which you can find within the show notes of this episode. You can follow the Playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.